Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our show, The Investing Bros. How about that new intro? Shout out to Cryptex in chat. He actually edited that and made it for us this weekend. So everyone give him a big round of applause. That was fantastic. That is surprise number one for you guys today. But we got a lot more to talk about here because this is the Investing Bros, where we cover Bitcoin TA, we cover news, we cover crypto and stocks every single weekday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go ahead and smash that like. We don't necessarily have a lot of news going on, and the charts didn't really move that much, but there's still a lot to talk about. Could China be swinging once again, being more positive towards crypto with what their approach is with Hong Kong? Also, we got some other interesting things going on with Ukraine. So are we going to be seeing maybe some developments over there? We're going to talk about that and a lot more in this show. Make sure you don't go anywhere, but make sure you smash that like button before we get going. And if you are new here, consider subscribing to the channel for more content just like this. Again, we got surprise number one out of the way. That new intro is fire. Look forward to another one here just a little bit. We're going to cover that during the TA section. But first, let me introduce my co-host this morning. It is T Shroom. How are you doing today, T Shroom?
I'm doing really well. I'm really glad to have pressed the
You're
like
just
button.
Doing well?
That is correct. I'm doing really well.
Nothing else?
Doing about as well as I deserve.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, upgrade. You know?
Yeah. What I'm getting out of life, out of my environment, is priced really, really fairly. I'd say is
Gotcha.
the analysis. Zooming over to our quote of the day, we've got two. Oop, that's not the quote of the day. There's the quote of the day. It comes from Confucius, because we do a lot of Western quotes, I realized. So we wanted to get one from the different continent, Asia. So here's the quote of the day from Confucius. The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The man who does not ask is a fool for life. Now, Tim, you brought up another quote that is a competing quote.
It is kind of, it works against it, but they're not, they have some differences. It's both good quotes.
It's a counter quote to that quote.
Yes.
And we're going to read it, and we're almost going to have a would you rather quote sesh here.
Yeah.
All right, and that quote is from a Westerner, Mark Twain. So the battle of the hemispheres here. Not hemispheres. Anyway, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It is better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you are a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. So what do we do here to avoid being a fool, Tim?
Yeah.
Do we ask a question, or do we keep our mouths closed? What do we do, Tim?
Yeah, so I told T-Shrimp, there's a story, I'm going to be quick with this, but in college, I was in a math class, and the first day the professor says, guys, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Mm-hmm.
Please ask away. It won't be bad. You'll never learn unless you ask. A couple classes later, I will admit, it was a dumb question. This one girl in the front row, he's doing some math. This is an algebra class, but of course there's still some arithmetic in it. One of the steps he made an adjustment where he just added together 3 plus 4 and it made 7.
Oof.
She didn't know what happened. So she's like, she raised her hand. She asked, how did you get a 7 out of that? I don't understand. And he literally went back at her. He's like, how the heck are you asking that question? You should have learned that in like the 5th grade. That is a terrible question. In which case the whole class was like, you said there's no such thing as a dumb question. And he's like, well, I just didn't think it was going to get that dumb. So in her case, I think she should go the route of Mark Twain. But again, she wouldn't have known unless she asked. I don't know, so let us know which quote about being a fool do you guys think is better? Do you think you should just keep your mouth shut and not confirm it, or do you think you should risk being a fool and ask a lot of questions? I think I'm probably the ask questions and look like a fool, but
same. Confucius for the win on this one, in my opinion.
I think it's certain people the quote should apply differently to different people
in different scenarios.
Yeah.
All
We're about to get back in here with some crypto stuff here in a second, but there is a poll in chat I want everyone to vote on. We only got 33 votes, despite the fact that we have like 70 people watching. Would you rather be in 100-degree weather with no AC, or 0-degree weather with no heater?
Wow.
This is really going to tell us who's up. How many fans do we have that are up north and how many are down south? Currently, we got 55% saying cold with no heater, 45% saying hot with no AC. So it's pretty close. It just shifted a little bit, 53 to 47. That would imply we probably got some more warm weather states. There's also a little bit of I don't know what is happening over there. Like, this is February. It's supposed to be cold right now. My wife and I were looking at the weather report. Today's not bad, but I think later this week, Florida in Gainesville is going to have 90-degree weather in February. Very
Wow.
easy for me to say I would rather be cold with no heater. But I guess all of our friends in Michigan and Ohio and Minnesota and Wisconsin, I guess it would make sense for them to say I'd rather be hot with no AC. I don't know. You know, it depends on where you are. But get those votes in. I want to see at the end of the show what people are thinking there. T-Shroom.
What's that?
Let's kind of shift back to crypto. What are some other headlines? I kind of teased some of them in the intro. What are some other headlines we're talking about today in the second half of the show?
Wow. I'm so glad that you asked that. We've got a big book reveal, a big book publish that is very pro-Bitcoin at a high level. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Not spending too much time on it, just a big update for you on that. And then Coinbase has their earnings today. We're going to preview that a little bit. FTX Japan to allow asset withdrawals starting Tuesday. You've probably heard that in the headlines. Pretty big news there. China's capital reportedly backing Hong Kong's vision as a crypto hub. What? That's crazy. I don't think anybody was expecting China to thaw their anti-crypto policies so quickly. So that is going to be our news. There's certainly more to come here, and we will be covering that as it comes out.
Sweet. Perfect. Well, let's go ahead right now. Let's engage with chat, and then we're going to jump in and do some TA here. Even though it's covered by my poll, I did see Mr. J is once again the first commenter of the day. So shout out to Mr. J. Although it makes it hard because I think there's just one other name that I can't see at the top. So I'll probably say that name again. I think it's Mike Play. I think Mike Play might have been the second commenter. But Mr. J and Mike Play up at the top. Who else do we have in chat this morning? Elo Brown saying, dang. Or maybe he's talking about beavers there. Beaver dam. I think he's referencing beavers at this point.
It could be.
Because just like the early beaver, you got to get to the chat in time to be first. Right. So what wordplay there by Elo Brown? I'm loving it.
You got to love it.
CBD Suddy is here saying, let's freaking go. It's a good day. I can feel it. I think it is too, CBD Suddy. John Kahn is here this morning. Justin Eubanks is here. Who else do we got? Mr. Bitcoin saying, good morning to all. I spelled out GM for Tim. King of the Alpha Bros. Yes, I won't make that joke today. The old joke of the GM. Alex Green is here. Tyler Main is here. Who else do we got? Elliot Locke is in the chat. Let's see here. We already shouted out Cryptex, but he's in chat as well. Again, fire intro. If you guys are just now joining, when the show's over, go back, watch the intro. It's going to be the new intro for all the shows. It's fantastic, fantastic stuff there. Eric Wallen is here. Who else do we got? Let's keep scrolling here. Kumar Raj. I don't know if I've ever read Kumar Raj's name, so shout out to Kumar. Cilantro Island.
I like that.
Cilantro Island saying, my dudes. Good to see you here. Soz Majid is here. Brian D. Servando Estrada.
Servando.
One of the most fun names to say here. Williest is here. David, Brumbulo, I think. Crypto Trades is here.
Oh, that's the... that's actually... I know some Brumbulos down in St. Pete. Yeah, I don't think that's the date. That's not the Brumbulo that I know, but it is a Brumbulo.
Well, speaking of ones that you know, Steve Shrum is in chat. Crypto Mini Bike is here. Max PP, Alton Henderson. Who else?
Wait, I got
Polito
one.
9mm.
I got one for David because it says that he's. Oh, it says not financial advice, but for you is sell high, buy Brumbulo. How do you like that?
I
get it. Like buy low, sell high. But you just to get it nice. And this is a good slogan for like if you wanted to sell a book or sell like speaking services. Sell high, buy, Brumble low. No? We need some applause buttons because that was fire.
Or crickets. Either way. Last couple here. A mellow fellow is here. Tyler Main, Overcome. Army Piper is in chat. Shout out to Army Piper. Let's see who else. Henry Hernandez. And last one, Joe Nickel. Joe Nickel is here. If I did not read your name, it does not mean that I don't love you, but it is time to get on with the show. So, T-Shirt, why don't you go ahead and go over to my screen, and we'll do some technical analysis this morning. Are we having?
Let's do it.
All right, good.
Looking
Sometimes
good.
we got those technical difficulties. You never know. But we had a good system this morning. Just so you guys know, we should be expecting less and less of these technical difficulties from here on out.
There should be a bullish divergence.
Very bullish divergence.
On the occurrences to the momentum of the occurrences on average. Right? That's what that is.
Oh, okay. That was a lot. That was a mouthful right there.
Yeah.
But let's do TA right here. So what we have currently going on with Bitcoin, did not mention yesterday, but we got our third touch here earlier this morning. So this is kind of nice for me. We got a little zone here forming with a flat top, but guess what we're still doing? We're having a rising level of support. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call an ascending triangle. And ascending triangles, just kind of breaking down, if you guys are wondering, Tim, I've seen this formation before. What am I supposed to look at with this? This is an equivalency of the bears have really kind of set up shop right here. Let's just go ahead and call it around 25,200. Well, guess what? That's the same shop that they set up defense for back here in August. Well, we're back to that point. Here's the difference. So bulls rallied. We hit our head here once. Bears said, no, we're not getting past that point, and they sent us down. The problem is we came from all the way down at 21,500. They only sent us back down to 23,400. So bulls kind of got kicked back for a second, but they didn't have to fall as far. We came back up. We rallied again here. This is what, 2 days ago? Bears said, no, not yet. And the bulls got kicked back, but we only got kicked back down to 23,800. So the bulls are picking up steam, and the bears' wall of defense is just getting chunks taken out of it and out of it and out of it. And sure enough, this morning we went back once again to 25.2. The bears said no, but we're not falling as far. So this is something to keep your eyes on. Watch this level of support we have. We only have 2 touches here, but do we stay above? I told you guys yesterday, I'm not necessarily that worried if we stay above 24,200. Now I'm kind of more in a boat of saying, as long as we stay above this little trend line of support, I'm just not that afraid of this rally being over just yet. I think we have more room to go. And again, this kind of works like when you're looking at ascending triangles, it's like every single time the bears reject us, they get weaker and weaker and weaker, and the bulls are getting stronger and stronger. And this is what takes us to kind of the title. And I know I spent a lot of time looking at more micro, but the title this morning, the second half of it, the fresh FUD could be good news. Some of you guys might be wondering, Tim, how could FUD be good news? Shouldn't FUD be a bad thing? FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Here's the thing. Those of you who have been in the space long enough, you know that a lot of times when you see FUD just crowd the market, that's actually a good time to buy. When you see FOMO, the fear of missing out, flood the market, just a bunch of articles saying, guys, Bitcoin's going to the moon, Bitcoin's amazing, it's on a spree, that's when you should be a little more cautious. Well, I told you guys, there's not necessarily a whole heck of a lot of news, but in case you haven't ever used it, if you're on TradingView, this little purple lightning little button right here, this gives you some latest headlines. Let's look at just a couple of them. Bitcoin active addresses are concern analysis despite the 50% Bitcoin price gains. Ooh. This is an opinion piece, but it is a little bit of FUD. Let's see. Crypto momentum falters as Bitcoin bulls fail to conquer 25,000. It's just price analysis. There's some FUD there. There's a negative sound. If I don't know technical analysis, if I'm not following the markets, if I'm newer here, I'm reading these articles and I'm like, oh gosh, man, it's not looking good. They're right. We haven't conquered 25,000. We keep getting rejected. Maybe I should go and sell. These are all opinion-based pieces. I know there's just 2 of them. If I were to go here, go more news and go over to the bottom right, which I don't think they can see because it's covered by my face.
Correct.
You can scroll. Can you move my face?
There you go.
You can scroll down here, and these are all headlines. Almost every single one of them is bearish. There's one here from 11 hours ago that says that if we break this support line, or if we break this resistance line, we could get to 28K. That's what I've been telling you guys for a while now. But everything this morning is looking more opinion-based FUD. And a lot of times, those things are what a smart money and a whale investor are looking at to say, we must have some retail FUD at the moment. They're going to try to sell. Let's gobble up that supply. And that sometimes can be one of the most bullish indicators out there. It's not just what's his name from Jim Cramer. Everyone jokes that when Jim Cramer is bearish, you should buy. When he's bullish, you should sell. It's the same kind of concept here. A bunch of opinions from random people saying, oh, we're not sure about this. This is looking bearish. Sometimes when that's flooded the market, that's one of the biggest bullish signs out there. And then you pair that with this bullish indicator. You pair that with when we pull up our RSI. We do not have our bearish divergence here. Yes, you're going to look at this peak right here. We're on the 4-hourly chart. You're going to look at this peak. and say, all right, was that bearish divergence? Well, guess what? This right here, very small, if I zoom in here, this was bearish divergence. These peaks go down, these peaks go up. We came back down. We paid the punishment. We served the time. We came back down, and now we're regrouping. We are not setting up bearish divergence. Let's go out to the daily chart, take a look at it, because it's got a little bit more information going on here. Some people are going to say, hey, Tim, is that peak right there? Are we bearish divergence right here? Because look, the peaks are going down, but the price is going up. Well, guess where these peaks kind of started? They started all the way back here. To make a bearish divergence line, we just have to cut through all this price action. That's not really how I see it. I see this whole grouping right here, this grouping of RSI and this grouping of price action. That's what I'm looking at and saying, yep, we had our bearish divergence, but once again, we paid the piper. We came back down to 21.5. It's now time for a little bit of a regroup, and we do not have that bearish divergence happening there. We also, while that green histogram is kind of slowing down, we did just cross bullish on the MACD. Let's shift over to another reason why I do think that Bitcoin is bullish. Again, there's some reason for concern, but let's go over to our chart prime, which brings us to a couple things for the show today. The first thing that I'm going to say about chart prime is that is the second surprise of the day. You guys have been seeing me use this fantastic indicator, and I still have a lot to learn on it, but it is phenomenal, and we now have a link for that down in the description below. If you go and look in there, you can click on that and purchase Chart Prime today, and that's just another way to support the channel. But I am super, super excited, not only for that link, but even our relationship. You guys are going to see in the next coming months, we're going to have a very close relationship with Chart Prime, because I do believe that this indicator could be a game changer for the crypto space. I don't want to say anything bad about other paid indicators, and I've used others, and you guys know them. It is the cheapest of them all, and I think also the most productive. Doesn't mean the others don't work. I'm not going to be out here spreading FUD and saying, oh, the only one that works is Chart Prime. That's not true. They all have something that works for them. But in my experience of working with several paid indicators now, I'm telling you right now, Chart Prime for me has been the most helpful addition to fundamental technical analysis that is out there. And again, it's the cheapest. And guess what? When you sign up for it, it comes with so much education. It's ridiculous. Like, you can literally have one-on-one trainings in their Discord. You can have a fantastic community. I'm in the Discord. I never see anybody asking for a refund because it's that fantastic of a product. Test it out. I know there's a lot of policies. There still is a refund policy, so you can test it out and say, I don't like it, and just keep moving on. But again, I've never seen anyone do it. With that said, there's that little nice second surprise of the day. Let's go back to the charts here, T-Shroom. What we're looking at right here, yes, we're hovering right at that premier level, that rejection level, but guess what we're seeing happen? This is the 4-hourly chart. This is a little newer. Let's go out to the daily chart. I've been talking about the daily chart now for a while and how the reversal zones are constricting. And I'm talking while I'm waiting for the chart to load, just so you know, for performance, it doesn't always load very fast, but you guys don't need speedy loading when you're doing this for your personal stuff. Here we go. We are constricting right now on our reversal zones. Constrictions lead to breakouts. Yes, you guys see this tunnel right here, but then guess what? Boom, we break out. Constriction. Wasn't a major breakout, but we broke out right here. This is a sign, not necessarily bullish, not necessarily bearish. It's just a sign that a breakout is coming. And when you're combining this with other indications that something bullish could be happening, this to me is another level I'm looking at it more productively. We go down to the 4-hourly chart where we just have started to become more restrictive this morning. I guess we've been working on being constrictive here for a while. And once again, I got to wait for it to load here just a little bit. But look, our reversal bands once again are constricting down here. And it's going to be very interesting to watch what happens. Now, I did mention yesterday, and we'll talk about it again today, on the hourly chart, it does look like we're following more of the trend line of the red line, which is more of a level of resistance than support. So this is something I do want to see the bulls come back in and regroup. There we go. Actually, we just reset this morning. That's a good sign. And we reset into a symmetrical triangle pattern. Here's a good thing about symmetrical triangle patterns. Symmetrical triangle patterns break to the upside, especially when you're coming into them from the downside. So just one more thing Chart Prime is kind of talking to us about, saying, hey, guess what? This could be a really bullish sign. Either way, the other cool thing about it is these ranges. We're trading within these golden bands right now here on the 1-hourly chart, but we're getting very close to that dynamic reactor. We do cross above and below them, so it's not like this is strong support. But in this case, looking at how close we are to this support level, looking how close we are to this little band of dynamic reactor, to me, I would be surprised if we drop too much below this one. I would expect this one to stay green or maybe flash red for just a second, but then go back in the right direction. Chart Prime is fantastic at helping just add to everything you know about technical analysis. And I haven't even discussed the fact that we have a lot of things happening on our oscillators here with Chart Prime. We did just get this green little triangle here just a little bit ago. So have we gotten an oversold signal on the hourly chart? No, not necessarily, but you're seeing we have come back down into the oversold region. 4-hourly chart, I think we're kind of sitting in a more neutral spot. Yeah, we're kind of sitting here in a little neutral. Got a little bit of bearish divergence right there, so we'll keep our eyes on that. But as a whole, there's not necessarily anything bearish happening there. I do believe out on the daily chart, the last signal we got was an oversold signal right down here at that 21.5. So until I get on the daily chart an overbought signal with this orange box, I'm not necessarily too concerned here. So we are sitting in a spot. Is it possible that Bitcoin gets rejected and heads to the downside? Absolutely it is. Going back to our traditional fundamental TA, it's absolutely possible that we get rejected. However, the signs are starting to add up to this is more of a bullish breakout. And there was one more thing that I kind of wanted to mention, another reason why I think this could be bullish, and I know this kind of goes out of turn, T-Shroom, but we wanted to talk about the predictions for the next Fed rate hike. Could we go ahead and talk about that? And I want to kind of explain why I think that's another bullish signal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got it pulled up right here. Right now, I'll give it a quick refresh just so we can see the latest data coming from the CME group there, and it's coming in at 79% likelihood that we'd see a 25 basis point hike and a 21% likelihood of a 50. Now, this is up from previous weeks, but it's still, obviously decidedly 25 basis point hikes.
Yeah.
So
now, does it give us a date on the next FOMC? Yeah, it does right here. So 29 days. We have another month until we get the next Fed rate hike. All right. We're looking at this prediction tool and we're saying, all right, it is shifting. Like at one point, just so you guys know, it was more than 90% we're saying 25 basis points and less than 10 we're saying 50.
Just a week ago. On February 14th, it was saying 90.
We're still sitting with a lot of certainty we're going to see 25. But I'm assuming the reason that we're coming up here with 21% for 50 is because the inflation numbers didn't quite get what they wanted to be. You might be saying, Tim, shouldn't all of this be bearish? Shouldn't this be reason to be more afraid? And here's the reason why I say no. We got 30 days. 30 days until Jerome Powell actually gets on that podium, lets us know what that next interest rate hike is. There's actually a better case if we're going to see him be 50 and be hawkish. If he's going to get up there and say, uh-oh, guys, we're worried about inflation numbers. It's not where we want it to be. Bulls are going to want to get a little bit of a pump right now. If there's any thought that they're moving into more hawkish territory with the Fed, they're going to want to pump into that rally and then take their profits, knowing that the rest of the market will get bearish and come back down. So to me, the fact that we still have 30 days, and you can go back to my screen, the fact that we still have 30 days until we actually get a potential hawkish report from Jerome Powell and the Fed, wouldn't that make a lot of sense that in the next 30 days to go ahead and pump up here, get to that 28, then all the whales and institutions, if they're really afraid that the inflation is getting back out of control, they can take their profit at 28 and wait for a serious dip back down to buy down low.
Yep, and really quick, guys, I just pulled it all up so that we can kind of go on this journey together. The next rate hike, or the next, it more than likely will be a hike, so the next rate hike will come, and the decision for that is at 25 or 50 or 0 or 75. I doubt it. It's going to be the extremities. It'll be 25 or 50. Coming on the 21st through the 22nd. That's when that'll drop. Okay, so then the next question is, well, when's the next CPI drop? The CPI drop print for February is March 14th. So we will be getting a
inflation.
Yes, we will get a CPI print. That is the headline. That is the one that it's not quite PCE, which is the one that the Fed really takes a super deep look at, but it obviously takes CPI into massive consideration as well, because that's the one that the public sees. So anyway, that's just goes to show that there's going to be a CPI print before the next Fed decision in March.
But even that, we still have what, 3 weeks until those numbers come out?
A lot can happen. A
lot can happen. Again, if there is any type of FUD, like let's say the smart money investors are saying, I'm not liking what we're seeing going that far. The way their brain works is, hey, but right now we still have some form of momentum. Let's go ahead and push through. Let's get to that 28. That can happen within the next 3 weeks. We get that 28, and then the hawkishness starts, and that's when the sell-offs begin, and we go back down to 22, 21. Maybe we go fill that CME gap below, down to 19.5. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll say I listen to CNBC World Exchange every single morning. It's the earliest financial reporting that comes out in the New York on Eastern Standard Time, right? So it's basically kind of sets the tone of the day, and whether that's fair or not, you can make that decision for yourself. Today, the tone was very, very bearish. They had two competing talking heads on the show. One of them, clearly one was much more articulate and was kind of the bear, and then every other person they had on, every other hedge fund manager or whoever was on, was pretty bearish. We'll see how long that tone lasts, because what I would make the argument is that CNBC played a big role in why we started 2023 so bullish. Everybody was expecting all these recession headlines, all this downward movement on assets and risk assets, and then the first couple days of 2023, I was listening. World Exchange was very bullish. They had guys on saying, "Oh, well, equities are underpriced. It's a good time to buy. Don't want to buy everything, but it's a good time to buy. We're buying over at XX Equity Incorporated." So it sets the tone, and I will say that there has definitely been a sharp pivot toward bearishness, and there's not a bunch of data coming out. I mean, earnings has been tepid. It hasn't really disappointed in megatech sector, but it hasn't really disappointed overall. It hasn't been great, hasn't been terrible. It's basically shown that the American consumer is still going out and buying goods, less discretionary goods, more staple goods, which is does sow a sign of a temporary slowdown in the possible slowdown in the economy. But anyway, I'll leave it there. There's been a big pivot in coverage, financial coverage. So just something to be aware of.
Good stuff. Thank you there, T-Shroom. Let's get back here. We're going to do two altcoins really quickly, and then we're going to kind of shift into our news portion of the show here. VeChain is the first one. And the reason I bring up VeChain is because VeChain is not only up almost 50% in the last week. I guess it came back down. It got to being up almost 50%. But there was news that broke about VeChain's new wallet, their new decentralized wallet. So this is a Yahoo article right here. Announcing the launch of VeChain's new official decentralized crypto wallet. We might look more into it, but I think this article is kind of vague. It just kind of goes into, hey, they have a new wallet. Could that be the catalyst for why VeChain jumped like this? I'm not really certain, but I know a lot of people I know there's actually probably a diverse opinion on VeChain. I think there's some people that probably don't like it, but others who are big proponents of it. Either way, what I'm looking at here when I pull this up is I'm not sold yet that this rally is over. Yes, the MACD is sitting really high and it's slowing down a little bit. And yes, some people are going to look at these two peaks and say, oh, there's divergence right there. But I kind of told you, same thing with Bitcoin. Look at this whole grouping and look at this whole grouping. I'm not necessarily drawing this. This looks like a fresh new rally here that started last week. The zone I'm looking at to get a little bit overextended. Yes, that RSI is down, but watch potentially our RSI pop back up, not get as high as this peak here at 72, but we get into this zone right here between about 3.3 cents all the way up to about 3.9, almost 4 cents here on VeChain. The reason for that in this zone is look at this nice little flat resistance that we could not get above back in May. We couldn't get above here in August. And that zone goes all the way up to, if we do break that, there's going to be almost no volume in that area whatsoever until the support level we had back in February of 2022, right there at about 4 cents almost. So watch, if you are a VeChain holder or if you've been trading it or you're wondering, Tim, what's a spot that looks like could be a good rejection zone? Anywhere in this box, and I know that's kind of a big box. In fact, I think let's look at what percentage does that kind of cover. There's a difference. Like if you were like saying, "Hey, I'm going to short VeChain. I'm looking for a good resistance spot." Well, that's you don't want to necessarily use too much leverage if you're going to enter right here at 3.4 cents or whatever. That's a very strong level of resistance. Could be the spot it rejects at, but if it pumps up all the way to the top of this zone, goes all the way up to this former support and turns it into resistance. If you're using leverage, you might have gotten stopped out depending on what kind of leverage you're using. Not financial advice, but I just wanted to show you in case you guys are looking for a zone to keep your eye on here. That zone, 3.3 to 4 cents, is going to be a nice little spot there on VeChain. Let's take a look at Algo, another one that our community has been looking at a whole lot. Not necessarily anything crazy happening as far as the oscillators. Let's take a look though. I had this all pull up. I know this looks like madness. I'll take it down. I'll take this down and then we'll kind of explore what's happening here. You guys can see from my little price, it's going to be 31.2 cents that I'm keeping my eyes on here. We do have a little bit, keep your eyes out here. I'm not going to call this a cup and handle just yet. Some might, and I would understand why. They're kind of looking at a little V-shaped cup and then you could say that's a handle. It's just not the cleanest handle I've seen, and usually handles will go a little bit deeper and more towards the halfway. If you want to read it that way, feel free. You can trade this however you want to, but I am watching this level as we kind of get to a place where we run out of steam. Could we get back up to 31 cents, 31.2 cents? It's not only this candle's rejection level we had back in November, but let's pull up what I just had here. Let's pull up the fixed range volume profile. Guess what that is right in there? That's a little valley we have. If we can conquer, right now we're kind of struggling below this little peak, but if we can get up there and we can conquer it, we could get into this little gap right here at that 31,250. Let's even go a little deeper and do the other thing that I had here, and let's take a look. I'll go ahead and take this down just so it's not as confusing. Let's take a look at our Fibonacci levels. Let's go to the peak that we had. What is this? Back in November of 2022, and let's go to the bottom right there, and guess what? Boom. This is the log chart. That puts us right back into the golden pocket, a very, very significant zone for retractions to happen, come back to. This is still bullish. I think if we could reject here, set a higher low, maybe come back down to 0.382 or 0.5 levels down in this region, and then move to the upside. But keep your eyes right there in that golden pocket on algo right now. It's going to be an interesting spot. If we break through the next level, I'd be looking at using this same fixed, I almost call this fixed range volume profile, Fibonacci. Look at that 36-cent region. In fact, let's pull back up fixed range volume profile, see what it says about 36 cents, and see if there's any significance about that. A lot of times you are finding confluence between these two. 36 cents would put us right here. We would have covered a lot of different valleys, a lot of peaks, and this would kind of put us right before a big dip down. A good valley sitting at 40 cents, but again, keep your eyes in that zone. Zone 36, if we break through 31.2 and we start making it up, watch 36 to about 40 cents. Could be interesting. That 40 cents region is also, now that I'm looking at it, didn't even plan to talk about this, but you're starting to look at other resistance levels, other support levels that we've had in the past here with Algorand. So very interesting stuff happening there. Again, to me, all this FUD in the market right now, these opinion-based FUDs, I'm leaning more bullish, so that's how we're looking at some prices above us. But continue to prepare yourself and defend yourself. Anything is still possible. It is 9:31 T-Shroom, so that means the market is open for the first time this week. The stock market, that is. Why don't we go ahead and examine it? Anything crazy happened over there while I was finishing up the algo TA?
All right, let's do it. Let's dive right on into our market open here, guys. And I'm expecting to be pretty encouraged as a crypto investor this morning because I'm seeing lots of red on the equities indexes here. You're seeing the Dow Jones down 0.8 here at open, and the Nasdaq down the most at 1%, 1.3% here, and the S&P down 0.9%. So across the board, red, and pretty decidedly so, especially the Nasdaq, as you see money rotate out of risk and not going into security, right? Just going on to the sidelines for now, or perhaps going into crypto. No, crypto is red across the board. Before the market opened, crypto was pretty green, very green across the board, and it is coming in red this morning. Uniswap leading the way down on my watch list, and Matic doing so as well. Let's jump back up to energy because we skipped it. Energy pretty red this morning as well. We've seen a stark decrease in the price of oil as it has it's kind of been tiptoeing around and kind of jumping up and then jumping back down in between this line of resistance up here and this line of support. You know, I'm just glad to see that it hasn't been able to break through 83 to the upside per barrel because that would start to, really squeeze inflation. It would start to squeeze inflation in a way that we don't want to see. Oil has done its part. Energy has done its part in order to bring inflation down, and we don't want that to start to reverse. So good things coming from energy overall. Indexes continuing to be red here and moving even more starkly toward the downside here in the early minutes of the New York session, as we saw crypto pretty red. Let's take a look at metals. Metals getting bought just barely this morning, although silver is up 0.6%. So a little bit impressive there to see some green on the screen in metals. Your mega cap stocks here. Mega cap tech stocks here pretty much selling off as you would expect based on what we saw just now in the NASDAQ. Overall, though, pretty red, except for Meta. Now, let's take a look at Meta's chart as they're earning our interest here this morning. Meta getting a nice little perk up here, after it found some support down there at 86.17, down there back in October is where it bottomed out, October 31st, and was able to kind of recover since then. So really interesting movement there on the weekly charts for Meta. I'll go to a daily chart just so we can get a little bit more up to date here. So moving along, bonds are selling off as well, and those yields are coming up to try to incentivize movement back in. Dixie moving up this morning. A lot of this, guys, I think is in preparation for the minutes tomorrow. The Fed minutes are getting published tomorrow. I believe those get published in the morning, 8:30 more than likely. So you're seeing a lot of FUD kind of filing in line and getting in lockstep with what could come tomorrow. C3.ai, big bucking the trend here as the AI phenomenon is not giving up quite yet in the investing world. C3.ai may have had some kind of company-specific news that came out, which is causing it to pump up quite a bit here. But in any case, it is definitely bucking the trend. And even though energy prices are coming down, you are seeing a consensus of green, of buying for your oil producers today. And that's going to wrap out our market outlook, our market open, and also wanted to take a quick look at Coinbase, just because we're going to talk about them here in a second. This is what their chart looks like for the beginning of the year onward. They've had a big, giant rally up with the rest of the market up 168% from those early January lows. But it has settled down around 107% up. So pretty impressive movement there from Coinbase from its lows. And then also you're seeing it's what is it really doing? It's really trying to find support here at the 200-day moving average, and it's looking like it will. It's also finding support there at the 20-day on that midline of the Bollinger Band. Although the red histograms are kind of plateauing, slowing down. So that could be a sign that this name is ready to get bought, ready to find support there at the 200-day, get the all clear from the Fed and from the market as a whole, and keep pushing to the upside. Well, let's go ahead and transition over to our crypto and stock stories. But before I do, anything in the market open that's speaking to you, Tim?
No, I mean, it's the other thing I'm looking at with Sharp Prime with Coin is we got now that 200-day moving average. We're sitting at the equilibrium level on the 4-hourly chart. I believe the daily chart as well. It might take a second to load. I mean, if you want to show, you can show it if you want to.
Yeah.
We bounced off the dynamic reactor here on the daily chart. So that's a nice little. Yes, we kind of dipped through it, but we bounced right at that level. Kind of hovering here. Watch those two. This gold line right here of resistance. This is a band right here, and then we got a green line of support. But what I'm really kind of looking at. Okay, yeah, so we're below. We didn't quite get down to the equilibrium. Is that even pulling it up? It's really not giving us an equilibrium, just because it's a little premium level. That's interesting. A little glitch right there. But we are sitting on equilibrium here on the 4-hourly chart. We came back down on the oscillators. There's not necessarily overextended. Yes, we had an overbought signal right here, but not necessarily too concerned. We're finding support here. So I'm still leaning a little bit more bullish. And again, I would imagine if we're going to see crypto go up, we see Coinbase and stuff go up as well.
Yeah, well, it's tough to say because Coinbase falls in with like the mid-cap tech stocks, right? And those are, it's too powerful of a sector to overcome. You saw C3.ai overcoming it this morning in our market open. That is an anomaly. Usually a tech stock. And then also DraftKings doing really well. I believe it was Friday, did really well because of its earnings. But yeah, overall, you would be agreed with by ARK Invest's Kathy Wood, because her company has been continuing to buy Coinbase, and they've been rewarded up 100% since those January lows. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into the stories. Guys, I want to start off with something that you may not expect. This is a Twitter account, Jason Lowry. Now, he's somebody who's close to my heart. I've reached out to him a couple times, but he's, I guess, just so busy. But he is in the U.S. Space Force, and he's also at MIT. Was an MIT student. He graduated, so he's a MIT alumni now this year. And he's also a U.S. National Defense Fellow advising on BTC and proof of work. And so he's a well-followed and well-respected enthusiast for Bitcoin specifically. He falls very, very, very squarely in the Bitcoin maxi category. So if you're big into NFTs or you're big into one specific altcoin, and you may find a lot of things to disagree with him with. But here's the news, guys. He is published his thesis that he's been working on for a long time here. And the thesis title is A Novel Theory on Power Projection and the National Strategic Significance of Bitcoin. So I strongly recommend, and this is a thesis for MIT. And he's presented highlights of this thesis to the president, to Biden. He's been able to advise the Biden administration on Bitcoin. And essentially, he has a lot of theories, guys. It's super unique. You don't hear the take that he gives anywhere else, really, because he looks at Bitcoin as a weapon. Essentially, it's a weapon that states will eventually adopt to fight against each other in a way that you never would have expected. And he's not a conspiracy theorist. He's not a BSer. He's an officer in the U.S. Space Force. So he's got some real solid thoughts, and he's sticking to them. Publishing this thesis over at MIT. Well, we talked about it. Coinbase downgraded ahead of the earnings on a treacherous outlook. The reason I've got this headline here is because, I want to highlight that Coinbase's earnings come out today at 5:30. We'll be watching those, and so will Kathy Wood, in anticipation of what Coinbase can do for her portfolio over there at ARK Invest. But I also wanted to point out just the FUD. There's not just FUD in crypto. There's FUD also on the equity side related to crypto. And some of you may not know, but there's banks and private equity companies and different companies in the finance world. They'll downgrade stocks. And so Coinbase has been downgraded to neutral from buy by just some company. It doesn't really matter. The point is that there's a lot of FUD. Right. And then also calling the FTX a debacle and referencing that in with Coinbase here. So at the end of the day, though, Coinbase will have the final say on what its earnings is, and those will be published today at 5:30. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then now this is a pretty big story here, guys. FTX Japan to allow asset withdrawals starting Tuesday. So the Japanese unit of failed cryptocurrency exchange FTX said on Monday it would allow customers to withdraw deposits of fiat currency and crypto assets beginning Tuesday after months of suspension. FTX Japan said its customers could withdraw assets through the website of Liquid Japan, a crypto exchange that was bought by FTX in February of last year. So, and for those of you who don't know, there's a note here. FTX filed for U.S. bankruptcy protection in November. So this could be kind of some foreshadowing of what could come in U.S. For folks who have their money tied up in FTX. But I would say don't hold your breath. I would say don't bank on it. Definitely don't budget for that money to come back into your possession. It looks like things are going in an excellent direction over in Japan, but it's still very much to be determined if those same protections are going to apply to United States citizens and European citizens and any citizen of someone other than Japan. Well, we're going to stay over in Asia because China's capital reportedly backing Hong Kong's vision as a crypto hub. And this is not a headline that we were expecting, certainly not one that I was expecting. But on February 20th, yesterday, Hong Kong Securities and Futures Commission officially released a statement outlining its plan to allow retail investors to trade cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. However, only exchanges that are licensed by the agency will be able to facilitate that type of activity. Investor protection is one of the key focuses of the blah, 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 blah. This special administrative region remains committed to becoming a crypto hub, and its intention of opening doors for retail traders seems to be a huge leap in that direction. So Tim and I will speculate on this story here because this is very similar to one we read yesterday. Now they're releasing an official statement, but it seems like this is only going to happen in Hong Kong. And this kind of goes to kind of the two classes that seem to exist in China, which is those who live in the mainland who are, totally bought into the CCP narrative. And then there's those in Hong Kong who have lived in basically a free country, free westernized country, still very much Asian in culture, but free westernized in terms of political thought and in terms of economic thought. And so what it looks like here is probably the Chinese government is looking at this and saying, okay, these guys are all using VPNs anyway, right? Like at the end of the day. And it's also like, hey, this whole crypto thing, this whole blockchain thing is clearly taking off in the West. This wasn't just a fad. We don't want to be left behind. So why don't we let our privileged, westernized Hong Kong citizens go ahead and engage in this And we're going to monitor it closely, but we don't want to get left behind here. We don't want our mainlanders getting involved in alternative currencies and obfuscating our oppressive monetary system. So it's kind of a best of both worlds for if I'm Xi, right? I go ahead and say, yeah, go ahead, let the Hong Kongers do their crypto thing, let them develop so we don't get left behind, but don't let it infiltrate the mainlanders and taint their minds with ideas of freedom and financial sovereignty and financial freedom like that. So that's kind of my read on it. Tim, what's yours?
I got a complicated thought about what's happening here with China. There's a lot of, when I say complicated, I mean there's strings. There's just strings coming from everywhere.
Gotcha.
The first thing is, in that article, it does talk about, is China going to reverse their ban? And for those who don't know, China has definitely a ban on mining. It has a ban on certain exchanges that can be there, and it really discourages their people from investing in it. I think you're right that they know that there are people using VPNs to do it. You know, that's just, they got to go ahead and assume that. I'm wondering if Hong Kong is their testing ground, if China is going to come back into Bitcoin, but they're going to say, let's watch what happens and how positive this could be for Hong Kong. There's something in there that says, you know, one country, two ideas, or one country, two, like, it's like Hong Kong is China, but it's different, you know, like they don't necessarily match 100%. Like, I think all of our friends in the UK could kind of, you know, understand that better than us United States citizens when they got like 4 countries within one country.
Right.
So it's an interesting concept over there. My point here is that, in case people are wondering, oh, does this mean miners are going back to China? No, that's not what it means. Does this mean that China's opening up and is now the most friendly crypto country in the world? No, that's not what this means. It means they're going to allow Hong Kong, a Chinese territory, to explore and go deeper with crypto. The reason why I said there's a lot of strings attached here, let's back up to something that I don't even know if you meant to kind of put in here to say this or not, but you just talked about a book from Jason Lowry, where he's talking about, you know, one of the things he's done is he's kind of given aid and he's advised the Biden administration, the United States system, about the potential that Bitcoin is not just a currency, it could be utilized as a form of a weapon in terms of when it comes to power. Do we not think that Chinese officials are thinking maybe something similar? That despite the fact that they were negative against it, they realize, especially watching global economies start to fall apart, and yet crypto can fix that problem. Do they not see it as a power weapon themselves? And so I'm sitting here kind of, and I think this has been speculated on before, what country is going to group, and I'm talking about large country because El Salvador is just unfortunately too small to count for this. What large country is going to jump on the Bitcoin train hardcore, realizing this is the future and we could take some serious control if we jump in here? Another thing, you got to start bringing that string attached. I don't know who's been reading these articles this morning, but there's a lot of articles over the last 24 hours upping the opinions that, are we going to see a lot more tension? There's a lot of tension right now, but more tension by the year 2025 brew between the United States and China. I saw an article, even like as you were talking, I was just scrolling through, making sure nothing breaking was happening. There was an article about a person talking about the fear that China is going to start supporting Russia. We know that Biden just went to Ukraine, and pretty much the whole point of him going was just to say that Putin is failing and that Ukraine is winning this war. He didn't even do anything of significance, but he did piss off Putin. Now, probably what his intentions were. Well, guess what? With all these things happening with the balloons in China, the tensions between the United States and China are mounting. Are we going to see something happen the next couple of years where, again, is it a full-blown war? I don't know. I think that potentially an argument could be made that we're kind of in a Cold War situation right now with China. Could that even more escalate with more of these balloons or initiatives to hack information? Could we see that continue to develop, and could Bitcoin become a weapon there? I'm hoping the United States and other countries in the Western Hemisphere, they do start to back and get behind Bitcoin, because sooner rather than later, we are going to see China and Russia and some of these other countries we really don't want to have the full power of the world say, you know what? I know we were against it before, but we're realizing how powerful this could be. Jason Lowry would definitely have that opinion, that he thinks that that's where those people are going. There's obviously, I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but there's obviously that old speculation that Bitcoin was invented by Russia, that Putin's actually behind Bitcoin to take power from other people. And his thing is that he'd put it into other countries and then blow it up from the inside. I don't think that's real right there. But it's gonna mount a lot of tension, and it's gonna be a lot of question marks. What country actually starts to embrace Bitcoin rather than fight it? We could see that country emerge as the most powerful country.
Yep, absolutely. And just to put a little meat on the bones of that observation, I don't think that Jason Lowery's release here is coincidental. I think that it's important because we are reaching this phase where the Cold War between America and China is no longer easy to ignore. And maybe you don't call it a Cold War, maybe you just call it a tension. But I mean, a lot of what Donald Trump's administrative theme was railing against China. He was outspoken against that. That had been kind of a break from the theme of the Obama administration in a big way. And now, now we're kind of faced with the facts. Is like, there wasn't enough done during the Trump administration, and now, it looks like, things may move into force and power projection. Well, let's go and take a look at what a summary from Amazon.com. This is the book of Jason Lowery's. Amazon provides a little more detail here, and this is the first link in our description today. We have two new links. This one isn't going to stay in our description. We have the Chart Prime link, and then we have this link to Jason Lowery's book. We might leave it in there a couple days. But anyway, here, let me read this. This is Lowery presents a novel theory to the U.S. Department of Defense that Bitcoin doesn't just represent a peer-to-peer cash system. It also, and more importantly, represents a new form of digital age warfare that will transform national security, cybersecurity, and possibly even the base layer architecture of the internet. Using scientific concepts from biology, evolution, anthropology, political science, computer theory, Lowery summarizes the dynamics of power projection in human society and provides an argument for why emerging proof-of-work technologies, namely Bitcoin, will have a dramatic impact on how humans organize, cooperate, and compete on a global scale by empowering populations to project physical power in, form, and through cyberspace. Major Lowery concludes that Bitcoin represents a national strategic imperative that the U.S. should support and adopt as quickly as possible, else it risks losing its lead as a global superpower in the 21st century. So if I'm a fly in the wall, and maybe he's not briefing Biden directly, maybe he only gets one opportunity for that, and Biden's half asleep, right, eating his pudding. I had to make the joke. But let's say that Lowery's going around making his rounds in Washington and New York and briefing very important DOD officials, right? They're hearing this. How many of them are thinking, "Oh, this guy's just a Bitcoin shill," right? They're not really open-minded enough to see past the Bitcoin headline that people can stumble upon, as we've discovered so many times in our orange pilling conquests. But then you'd have to imagine some of the DOD officials are thinking, there's something here. They understand power projection. They understand what Bitcoin and what encryption really in general means for the internet, how it totally eliminates the copy-paste function, and how it creates scarcity on the internet. And so some of them are starting to understand, okay, that where there's scarcity, there's tension. Where there's scarcity, there's interest. And nobody has greater and more powerful and the ability to enforce interest than states in this moment. I mean, corporations are hot on the heels of states, but in this moment, I am extremely interested in this theory. This is the theory that no one is talking about. And it's also a theory that, unfortunately for Ethereum, kind of goes against. If you buy this book and read this book, it's not a book, it's a thesis from MIT, from a student from MIT, Jason Lowery. But if you buy this and you read it, you're going to come out probably with a little more education to the downside of Ethereum than you had. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with Jason on that. I don't necessarily agree with Jason's overall thesis of Bitcoin and proof of work being power projection and that it'll ever be adopted as a weapon. I don't necessarily agree with that, but he lays out a case where it could absolutely be, and I'm very convinced it absolutely could be a possibility for the future, where, if you imagine a world where the existing financial structures maybe not collapse, but their importance gets cut in half by or not in half, but by 25%, right? Something major happens that we've seen with the housing market collapse, we've seen with other things. If Bitcoin really does come onto the grand stage, which is kind of everybody in crypto's dream, but careful what you wish for, and you careful with the pace that you wish for. If that happens, who knows what happens at that point? You're not talking about whales. You're talking about states that have a capacity to an organization to do something totally different from just what this natural, free-flowing, free market economy has done with this new technology.
I think the important distinction is between the two words can and will. If the answer is it can, it doesn't mean it will. But in the world that we live in, especially, again, in light of what we just went through here in the United States with those balloons from China.
Yeah.
I think that the U.S. Defense Department is looking at every possibility of can and whether they ever do it. I mean, right now, you're reading these articles talking about the war between Ukraine and Russia. You're talking about the potential between China and the United States. You're not going to read a single one of those articles, and it doesn't tell you about it doesn't talk about the number of nuclear warheads that are numbered throughout these three countries: Russia, China, the United States. Has a single one ever been used? No. They have not been used. The whole point of their creation was to prevent even bigger things. The whole thing is that it's like, hey, we don't want to use this, but if this is going to give us a strategic advantage when it comes to negotiations and preventing disaster down the road, we're going to take advantage of it. Same thing. Will Bitcoin be used as a warhead? Maybe not. But can it? And if the answer to the question, it can, is yes, then I think it is irresponsible for the United States government. To be honest, it's irresponsible for any government seeking to protect themselves to not pursue and understand better how to utilize it, even if it doesn't get used as a weapon, even if it doesn't get used to take down other countries in some form or way. If the answer is that it can, if Jason Lowery is correct in his thesis, then the United States government for sure should be using it and capitalizing on it to protect. Again, if they say it's a joke and then China or Russia decide, you know what, screw this, let's do it, and we fell behind, we're going to be in big trouble. You want to have access, even if you never plan on using it, you want to have access to all the weaponry you can just for self-defense.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we could talk about it until the cows come home.
We could.
Unfortunately, the way that these things play out has winners and losers. Usually the losers are poor people, and that's unfortunately what's more than likely going to happen at this point as well, with a world financial collapse being kind of the implied scenario here with this conversation. But there's been a couple of breaking news stories here, nothing too crazy, but I did want to kind of pivot over to them because I did see them mentioned, one of them at least, mentioned in the chat, and that is that Matic has dropped 6% as Polygon Labs slashes headcount by 20%. So seeing even among some of the most popular and successful coins in the new year in 2023, still kind of I mean, you could use the word struggling. I mean, you don't fire people because you're thriving necessarily, but let's see if we can find some details. Polygon Labs, the group of companies behind the Polygon blockchain, has cutting their headcount by 20%. The 100 employees that have been laid off will receive 3 months of severance pay. That's great. Earlier this year, we consolidated multiple business units under Polygon Labs. As part of this process, we're sharing the difficult news that we are reducing our team by 20%. All right, let's see if we can find a reason here. Again, guys, this is fresh news, so haven't had any time to digest this quite yet. The network's native Matic token dropped, did not immediately respond or comment. So this is, unfortunately, this is just news. This is just a data point. Polygon has slashed jobs. The other one, a lot more optimistic. DraftKings tees up PGA Tour NFT fantasy golf game. And what I will note is that we looked at our microcap stocks, our mid-cap tech stocks this morning, and look which one is green. AI. C3.ai sold off its 4% gain, and it looks like all that money went into DraftKings. Not ironic there, guys. That is actually like what actually probably happened there. So you can see DraftKings getting a nice push up to its, that's a pretty good line of resistance right there. If it can break that 21.50 line, that could potentially be big for DraftKings as it shoots pretty far out of the gravity there of the 200-day moving average on the daily chart there. And C3.ai getting sold off in the morning there on the daily chart. So very interesting movement in the microcaps world. Again, I said microcap, mid-cap tech world there for equities. But let's take a look here at some of the details. DraftKings will roll out the Rainmakers PGA Tour experience in March, following the same kind of format as its previous NFT projects. Digital cards based on PGA Tour golfers will be minted and sold via Polygon and Ethereum sidechain networks, and users can compete for millions of dollars worth of cash prizes. So there you go. DraftKings getting a big giving a big boost there to the crypto space, and maybe poor timing, but giving a big boost to Polygon there as well. So that's going to be some of your breaking news for this morning. Yeah, so let's go. We'll go ahead and wrap out the show, but I wanted to give out a super big shout out to Cryptex yet again for making the intro from this morning. I loved it. Yeah. I loved working with him. He's super professional.
For everyone who just joined late, do you want to run it? Special. We're probably never gonna do this again, but you want to just run that intro so people can appreciate Cryptex's work?
Yeah, let's.
Get a little Beamer cameo.
Yeah. Beamer cameo. I love it.
That is just great stuff. The sound to the song.
Yeah.
And it's going to ring, it's going to stay there.
Yeah. And this is actually Cryptex beatboxing that song. It's all vocals.
That is impressive. Very impressive. Yeah, I mean, we got big stuff coming to the show, guys. You guys know that we had a mission. We started this out. We want to continue to grow this great, fantastic community, and it is happening. And what's crazy is that it is happening despite the fact that T-Shroom and I cannot focus like 100% of our attention on this because we both have other jobs we have to pay the bills. That just speaks about how amazing you guys are. Cryptex, Matt C, Jeffrey Fritz, every single person in Discord. I would be here for a while to read the names.
Right.
You guys are continuing to make this a dream come true for T-Shroom and I. And there's moments, there's days of him and I meet, and I'm like, are we in there enough? Are we doing enough? And we'll go into the Discord, and like when we're absent, you guys are just taking it up. And it'll come to a place we're going to continue to grow more and more and more. But this is going to be one of the best spaces in all of crypto to have a non-toxic place just to learn and grow and understand crypto, stocks, and investing. 3 different levels there. You can support us financially so that we can continue to upgrade equipment. Do we pause? Or we freeze for a second? No. I'm just getting a spinning wheel of death on my computer.
Oh, no, you're good.
Yeah, so you guys can help support so we can continue to make better videos, more stuff. And we got exciting news coming out. We can't leak just yet, but there are some interesting partnerships we're in discussion with right now to continue to grow this channel and this space to be collaborative and educational for you guys. So if that is something you're excited about, look to continue to expand how you support us. Watching every single day, liking every single day, commenting every single day, being in our Discord. All these things are coming to fruition to make this one of the most special places in all of crypto. And I can't wait to see, as the bull market does come back, where Investing Bros goes over the next couple of years. With that said, that's all we have for you guys today. We love every single one of you, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.